One Heat Minute Productions presents Guide for the Film Fanatic, the podcast where we invite a guest to pick one movie from Danny Perry's seminal 1986 film reference book and talk to us about that movie. I'm your host, Jason Bailey, and across the mic and across the country from me is my co-host,
Michael Hull.
And our guest today is an Edgar Award-winning novelist and screenwriter whose books include The Last King of California, Everybody Knows, Love and Other Wounds, and his debut novel, She Rides Shotgun, which was adapted into one of last year's very best movies. He co-wrote the screenplay adaptation for that one as well. His new novel, A Violent Masterpiece, is out Tuesday. We are very pleased to welcome Mr. Jordan Harper. Hi, Jordan.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. So congrats, first of all, on the new novel. Let's plug the hell out of it right off the top. Tell us a little bit about A Violent Masterpiece.
Yeah, it's sort of a full tilt neon pulp novel about Los Angeles that I wrote at the time to be very over the top and crazy pulp, and now just reads like what we're reading in the news every day. It's about three people who are in their own ways involved in the kind of mechanisms of the beast of Los Angeles and the larger power structures beyond that, and kind of working to, feed the gross pleasures of the rich in one way or another. And they independently stumble upon different facets of the crime, the way, the story of the blind men and the elephant. A massive conspiracy is uncovered in sort of that way. From three people who end up coming together and having to reckon with the evil in their own hearts, and then using that to reckon with the evil of the world. And it has a serial killer named the LA Ripper. It has a billionaire orgy told from the perspective of the woman who had to plan it. It has...
okay. Imagine that.
So
well,
delayed.
That is what... Well, this is
Yeah.
not even Ghislaine. I'm talking about this is the woman who has to order all the sex toys and
Right.
make sure all of the sex workers have been tested, and rent the location and make sure the lights get hung.
Sure.
That's what interests
It's a
me.
logistical nightmare, really.
It is a logistic. That's sort of the point. And it also has a police riot where police go nuts and shoot a bunch of protesters with non-lethal weapons and make them lose eyeballs and stomp them. And it has a lot of fun romance and car chases and murders and dismemberments, and it's got a lot of everything. It's a big book. I'm very proud of it.
Well, congratulations, man. That sounds incredible. And then, of course, as we were discussing briefly off mic beforehand, the other reason we were really antsy to have you on is that we did a Best Movies of 2025 episode a while back, and Mike was just over the moon singing the praises of She Rides Shotgun, which I then finally went and watched and fucking loved as well. You have done a lot of writing and producing for television, but and correct me if I'm wrong, this was your first time adapting one of your novels for the screen. And
that's correct.
Okay, so tell us about that experience, because it seems like a very specific kind of thing to have happen to you as a writer.
Yes, it is. And I've actually, I've handled adaptation from a lot of different angles. I have adapted things. I did a pilot based on James Ellroy's LA Confidential.
Right.
I have helped other people adapt their own work. And then, yes, I've adapted myself. And right now, for Everybody Knows, I am being adapted by someone else where I'm not taking part in it. So I've kind of approached adaptation from every single angle. And while I'm incredibly proud of She Rides Shotgun, both of what I did and what everyone else did, right now, I think my current position is I'm going to not do it in the future. Not because it was a bad experience, but just because I think it's not my contributions to the movie that made it special, other than writing the book. Right. I think that it's better for me to hand off to the absolutely brilliant people who ended up doing the work. I like director Nick Rowland, obviously Taron Egerton, and really Sophia Hagar, who's who plays Polly, Anna Sophia, and who is, she is an amazing actress. I feel like, if the powers that be had gotten behind it, she could have gotten some nominations of her performance, because I just thought, she's a kid actress. You never feel her acting. She feels like a real person. And it really intense situation. So, you know, my like joke that I make about it, so forgive me for recycling my material here on you, is that a writer shouldn't adapt himself for the same reason writers shouldn't operate on themselves, which is that you need to be able to make cuts without pain. Right. And, you know, I will say, you know,
that's worth recycling.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's
good.
It kind of gets to the point of it. And I think in the future, I would either want to be all the way in or all the way out. But I do think that, you know, you can't just film the book, right? And that, trust me, my early drafts were just the book.
Sure.
And I understand why that can't happen. I also came, especially after the movie was made, I came to understand that the author of the book is maybe the one person on the planet who's the worst judge. Because they're the one person on the planet who cannot experience it as a viewer. They can only experience it as the author, which leads you to things like, you know, that Stephen King doesn't like The Shining.
Right.
We have gone on ad nauseum about that on this show. Believe me, we've covered that.
Yes. And you see it now, you know, Elroy has talked badly about the LA Confidential movie, which I consider to be one of the great adaptations.
Totally.
Yeah.
And when I met him, when we filmed the pilot and we were waiting to see if it was going to be a TV show, I just told him flat out, like, you would not like it.
Yeah.
Like, I would prefer you not to watch it. And
I'm telling you this as an author.
Yeah, and you know, I think I came to understand that the movie belongs to them. It doesn't belong to me. The book belongs to me. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing what they did, and I'm very, like I said, I am very proud of it. And I just came to understand that I think that it's better not to be involved, because especially like with Everybody Knows, and I wanted to write the next book. You know, it's better for me to focus on the things that are mine and let other people do what needs to be done to a book, because you always have to do something.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. That totally makes sense. Well, congratulations on the new book. Congratulations on that film and all of the wonderful things that were done to it and with it. What film did you select to discuss with us today?
Conan the Barbarian.
Looking good right off the top, wind in the hair.
I mean,
we used to make movie stars in this country. You know
yes, exactly. Exactly. Movie stars who held swords, damn it. Who convincingly held a sword. You can't put that sword in Timothée Chalamet's hands. It won't work.
I was amazed because just a few years before this, you know, he's winning Mr. Olympiad, and he's got to have lost 100 pounds.
Yeah.
By the time he's making this movie, even at the size he is in this movie.
This is the skinny version?
This is what I'm
really
saying.
Is.
Like, and that's sort of like the way he moves. There's no way he could have moved like that at his Olympiad form. But like, I mean, how much of that was just pure HGH? I have
that's a good question.
Tremendous amounts. Like, tremendous amounts. I imagine if he cut that out, this is probably as fit as he could be.
Right.
And not that I'm saying he's probably wasn't purely natural for this either. But he's smaller here than he is in Commando, I feel like. I feel like he gets back on it after this.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But this was sort of, I mean, was there any movies? Was this sort of the first movie where, like, that guy was an action hero? I mean, right? We're sort of moving out of the, like, you know, the, whatever, you know, the cops in Pelham 1, 2, 3.
Right.
You know what I mean? We're sort of moving out of, like, the Mathau as the, you know, the action hero era, right?
Right.
And famously, of course, by the era of Commando, they all looked like that, right?
Yeah.
Setting up the whole John McClane thing, you know, for that to be the new thing, right? Is this the beginning of that?
Well, I mean, this is roughly the same spring/summer as First Blood.
Yeah.
Oh.
Which
which counts.
I'll actually get back to. And so that's when Stallone is also first starting to sort of put on the bulk and so I mean, I think you're right that sort of the muscular action hero, this is kind of the beginning of that. And, you know, Chuck Norris is out there, had been doing it for a little bit, and Charles Bronson, but neither of them were sort of cut like that. So yeah, so Conan the Barbarian is the 1982 screen adaptation of the Conan stories by Robert E. Howard, directed by John Milius from a script credited to Milius and Stone, Oliver Stone. They worked separately on it, lest you wonder how two dudes with such wildly contrasting political views might have gotten along in the same room. Producer Edward Pressman, kind of a legend in that field, cast bodybuilder turned actor Arnold Schwarzenegger in the title role over the initial objections of financier Dino De Laurentiis. It was shot in early 1981, mostly in Spain, and was initially intended for release that Christmas, but Universal delayed it to spring, fearing that its commercial prospects were too low for a holiday slot. We'll see if they were right when we get to the box office segment a little later in the show. Mike, what does Mr. Danny Perry say about Conan the Barbarian in Guide for the Film Fanatic?
Then he says,
Arnold Schwarzenegger fits the role of Robert E. Howard's pulp hero as well as Christopher Reeve does Superman. Muscular, majestic, brainy, yet with ambivalent scruples, his Conan is by far the most formidable character to turn up in the sword and sandal genre since Steve Reeves' Hercules. If only they'd placed him in a solid story.
Ooh.
Freed after many years of enslavement, Conan goes after an evil cult leader, James Earl Jones, who has thousands of people under his power, including a young princess. Conan wants revenge on the man responsible for his parents' deaths and his bondage. He is joined on his mission by several skilled companions, including female super warrior Sandal Bergman. Some of Conan's adventures are exciting, but for the most part, director-writer John Milius' treatment is too somber for the comic book material. Also, it contains very little that is original. Take away the superheroes and the mythological setting, and you have the same basic rescue a cult member premise of the previous year's Ticket to Heaven.
Good movie.
Except when Schwarzenegger and the statuesque Bergman are on screen fighting and loving, the film really drags. Followed by the flimsy Conan the Destroyer. Also with Jerry Lopez, Mako, Ben Davidson, Sven Olthorsen, Max von Sydow, William Smith. Okay, Danny, but here's the thing. It does have superheroes in a mythological setting. Why would you take that away? Come on.
All right. So
cheap point. That's weak tea.
There's some weak tea in that particular Perry capsule. We'll get back to some of those points, but before we begin that discussion, I'm always curious to know the guests and Mike and my personal history. When did you, if you remember it, Jordan, first see this one, and how did it strike you, and how has it stuck with you through the years?
I don't remember the first time I saw it because I know that the general answer to that is way too young. I'm sure I saw this as a young kid, like doing the rounds on HBO or
sure.
On VHS. It's a movie I've seen many, many times. I've also, I had my teenage Dungeons and Dragons phase,
sure.
my junior high reading of a lot of the Conan books. Back then they were all kind of adulterated by a man named L. Sprague de Camp, I think is how you say his name. He was a guy who had taken a lot of Robert Howard's work and kind of reworked it, created a stitched together a history that Howard never really put together, rewrote some of the stories, added his own stories. But I ate those up, and I really, the artwork by Frank Frazetta, who is directly quoted in this film, that's some of the greatest, pulp art in the history of man. And I fell in love with that, and to the fact, I brought this one out because this is the most
wow,
some great re-releases of Howard's work in the last, I don't know, maybe decade or so. And these books, whatever the publishing is, Ballantine republished these, and they removed all of the taint of L. Sprague de Camp and other people, and are actually very catty about it in the introduction.
Love that.
But I'm a huge fan of Robert E. Howard. I think he was a tremendous pulp writer. I love pulp. I will talk about that more as we keep going. I think pulp is important, and I think it's really necessary right now. And again, I'll talk about that more later. But how Conan and Howard it has always been important to me in that way.
Got it. Mike, what about you? What was your first exposure to? Is it weird, by the way? I'm sorry. I keep having this thing where I'm reading it off of, the rundown, and I keep wanting to call him Conan, just because Conan O'Brien has been part of our lives for so long now. But no, Conan. What's your history with Conan the Barbarian, Mike?
Oh, I mean, I think it's the same. It's like everybody I knew had a VHS of this when I was 10 years old. Mm-hmm. So, of course, you're going to watch it. You know, I haven't seen it in a long time. I remember, you know, when I was a kid, I definitely thought a lot of it was real. You know, I mean, obviously, you know, you don't, not necessarily like he turns into a snake. You don't necessarily think that part is real, you know, but now I'm like older and I've read a lot of history and stuff. And I know that like a lot more of it is real than I realized. Just in terms of sort of just, especially all of that opening stuff, you know, about like, you just one morning you're just doing nothing and then all of a sudden some dudes just show up on a horse and kill everybody and that's just what it is. And like, I mean, I think that happened. I think that was really common, you know, and there's sort of the guy, like the character Subadai, you know, if you learn anything about the Mongols, like you learn the name Genghis Khan and then the second name you learn is Subadai.
Oh, wow.
Like Subadai was a great general, you know, and was his like right-hand man and all that kind of stuff. And so, you know, I know a lot more about Mongols now than I did when I was 10 years old, you know, and like there's a lot more truth in this movie than I realized.
That is fascinating.
And I just just watching it again now. I mean, I haven't seen it in a long time, but watching it again for this episode, I was just sort of like, damn, like they really did do their histories, their research and study. And then they threw a big fucking snake in there because hell yeah, bro. Why wouldn't you? I mean, it is founded in a real world.
The idea of they knew their history, they did their research, and then they threw in all this insane shit. Like, written by John Milius and Oliver Stone. Like, that's kind of their deal.
It fits.
For both of them.
Well, another thing is that the Mongol Empire was multiracial. Because they just simply by the fact of they had, I mean, it was twice the size of the Roman Empire. They had just conquered so many people that it was a multiracial empire, and they would take people, you know, if you were good at something, they would let you live as long as you came and did it for them.
Right.
So the idea of this being a sort of semi-multi-ethnic film in terms of the casting and everything is also more real than you might realize.
Well, yeah.
And I was kind of shocked by that element of it this time. I was just like, look, that's another thing that's kind of true.
Right. Well, and, you know, we should have presumed maybe that there was historical element because it wasn't like, you know, circa 81, 82 Universal was real into like woke casting. They weren't like, there were not, I think, a lot of diversity initiatives in the studio system at that time. But that's fascinating to know where that comes from. I just assumed that it was James Earl Jones because James Earl Jones is a great fucking villain. Although it's a little,
that's a perfectly good reason. I'm just saying it's not one of those things that's, you know, it's not as unusual as a Black Samurai or whatever other people are mad about right now.
Sure. Yeah, no, he's terrific. It's a little hard to take him seriously in that wig, but he's still pretty.
The bangs do damage.
The bangs are rough. The bangs are rough. It's true. Yeah. So I had a very different experience with this movie in that and I've talked about this, there are some movies that fall into like an early 80s pocket where because both of my parents actually were sort of shitheads about R-rated movies for at least a chunk of the early 80s, there were a lot of things that I missed kind of entirely. And then by the time I could watch them of my own free will on VHS or whatever, it was like, oh, that's early 80s. That's lame, you know, because that's how quickly the cultural cycle works. So I saw this movie for the first time, I want to say 7 or 8 years ago, at Walter Reed Theater at Lincoln Center on a double bill with First Blood.
Ooh.
Programmed by Jay Hoberman, like his 80s book, which is fantastic. And of course, I've completely forgotten the title. I think it's Make My Day. I'll double check that. But his 80s book had just come out. And so they let him program a series of double features at Lincoln Center of all of the movies that he talked about in that book. And so he paired these two because this was sort of the big Arnold breakthrough, who's very present in that book, and sort of the reinvention of Stallone, the beginning of that. And like I mentioned earlier, they came out in really close proximity to each other, like within a few months of each other. So that was my first time seeing it and really loved it. Like, you know, in that great way when like a movie that you've always just sort of heard about and maybe even preconceived things about based solely on like VHS boxes turns out to be. I mean, it's a work of art. Like, this is, I would argue, the movie that Milius was like born to make. And every frame of it, starting with opening with the Nietzsche quote, it feels like the movie John Milius was born to make. And the score is so incredible, and just the imagery of it, the compositions of it, the comic, the way that every frame looks like the side of a van that you like that somebody spent like half a year's paycheck on, you know. It's got that element to it. The storytelling obviously is incredible, and it's, you know, it's from these pulp books that have been out forever, but Milius, I think, was really sort of uniquely situated to adapt it and to find the visual style and the tone of it. So talk to me a little bit about that, Jordan, about, as someone who has read these books, which I have not. What is Milius being faithful about? Where is he taking liberties? How do you feel that his sensibility as a filmmaker and as a screenwriter works within the confines of these stories?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, how closely it hews to like the nationalities or the names of towns, any of those things, like nobody cares. And, you know, like, and I couldn't really tell you. I mean, there's kind of they do keep some of the weird racial politics of this world where it's like sort of all the continents are crammed together in Howard's universe. And yet, you know, they still have these like kind of racialized castes. So like the decision to make the martial arts experts Asian men with samurai swords is a sort of unfortunately accurate, I think. But I think, you know, and you've gotten closer. You talk about, to me, the tone, which, you know, Howard was writing for publication in magazines in the 30s, right? He was writing for Weird Tales, all those true pulps, like true pulp writer. And so the aspect that Milius and this script brings to it that is not quite faithful, but what I think is what really kicks this movie into like classic territory is the fact that it is a hard R film. It is the violence. It is the shocking nature of the violence that kind of like, that was like the early 80s is when they really dialed in on what fake blood should look like, you know. Right. They started adding those few drops of blue. So it's not that just kind of like house paint red feeling that you get from like a 70s film. And it is that desire to like kind of bring it down to the bone. Do you know what I mean? It's that desire to make you feel like it's almost like a Deadwood take on the Sword and Sandals movie. It's a grimy world. It's a dirty world. It's a world with mushrooms in it. You know, it's a world with theft. And I will say where that connects to Howard, and this is not my idea. I actually took this from the forward of this, The Coming of Conan the Cimmerian, was that what Robert Howard was doing was he was East Texas, lived out in the middle of nowhere, and he basically imagined a sword and sorcery world where he could put a Texas shit kicker into that world. And that's essentially what Conan is when you get down to it, is he is like a good old boy. And that actually holds. It holds through the stories. And, you know, the choice of Arnold Schwarzenegger, which is inspired, and I'm not critiquing at all because he's great, but casting him with his accent and his obvious Europeanness completely occludes that. And so it's harder to see that he has this sort of, you know, no nonsense, a very, you know, cut the Gordian knot sort of directness that you find in like that kind of hero, you know. And I almost tipped something here, but I'll hold it. And I think what both the stories and this movie is, and it's a phrase I actually have tattooed on me, is art pulp.
Wow.
It is art pulp. And I think that the unity of those two ideas, because I do believe in horseshoe theory, when it comes to art and pulp actually being closer together than the bottom of that horseshoe, which is just like sanitized, however you want to see, like
middlebrow prestige, sort of, yeah.
What the era we're living in now.
Sure.
And obviously, like, this is Dino De Laurentiis. This is a Hollywood movie. But back then, you could let somebody like John Milius come in and fucking spray his id all over the movie screen, and know what people want is to see Conan in a gladiator pit.
Yep.
See Arnold Schwarzenegger with like knife hands. See him scale a building. See him run a sword through a giant snake.
Right.
You know, these are the things that people want, and to do that with like this level of craft that is so admirable. You know, like you said, the compositions, the drawing off Frank Frazetta and his work. The performances, which maybe they're a little uneven, but I think Schwarzenegger is very good in this.
He is. He is. And really, I think
he's a goddamn bodybuilder. It's a half a miracle that he's as good as he is.
He's a movie star.
Right.
He is they don't make them like this anymore.
Right.
He just bends light towards himself, and you just want to watch him run. There's scenes where he's just running from dogs, and you're like, yeah, this is a movie. I'm watching this.
Yes. Well, I mean, what I think is sort of amazing to think about this movie in the context of that entire career is that you cannot, I think, overstate. Yes, he's incredibly charismatic. Yes, he's got this Greek god body, et cetera, et cetera. It's impossible, I think, to overstate the importance and the serendipity of the timing of this role for Schwarzenegger. That this was exactly the right role to make him a star at exactly that right moment in his career and in sort of Hollywood commercial filmmaking. And that what I've always thought about both of these movies is that both this and The Terminator, which also fits that description. Like that movie came at the exact right moment for him. But that these are both movies where his potential, I'm not being judgmental, his potential flaws as a performer, at least at this point in his career, work for the character and work for the film. Like this, there was, I don't know that there was ever a time when you could just cast him as an everyman and it's believable. Like you see, even good movies, even like I like True Lies, you don't believe him for a second as like the suburban dad. But these are characters where his massive physical presence is a benefit to the character and to the film, and where his accent is fine. Like it doesn't actually matter that much. And so with those two sort of almost literal elephants in the room taken care of, these movies allow him to just do what he does really fucking well.
I think that I know we're not talking about True Lies, but you cannot overstate what you just said, that it fundamentally, his appearance in that movie fundamentally betrays the entire concept. Right. Because Jamie Lee Curtis is like bored of her boring husband. She never asks him how much he's in the gym.
Right.
I mean, it just doesn't, it really doesn't work at all.
Right.
But you're right. And that he's a barbarian. He's literally a barbarian.
Right.
He is a foreigner in this world. He doesn't understand things. He has a cunning that is, again, kind of the good old boy cunning as opposed to any kind of, wisdom. It's and he doesn't have to talk a lot. And when he does, it's great. I mean, he is a true movie star, and that just carries him completely through. It's also, by the way, it's a role that allows him to not wear a shirt in a way that we all believe that he wouldn't wear a shirt. And that's a really good idea.
It is. It really is. If this is the guy you're showcasing, you find those reasons. Yes. Well, and you mentioned the dialogue, and that was the other thing that really struck me when I was sort of watching this one and watching it this time and thinking about things we might want to talk about, is that I think in this movie you really see Milius coming into his own as a filmmaker, in that he started out as a screenwriter and continued to be one, and was a script doctor throughout his career, so forth and so on. He's an incredible dialogue writer. Like, the man wrote fucking Apocalypse Now. But he is confident enough at this point in his career as a director not to lean on dialogue. That he plays most of the early, first 15, 20 minutes, very little dialogue, little bit of narration at the beginning, but he's allowing action to establish character and imagery to serve as exposition, and all of the sort of tricky things that screenwriters turn directors often have a really hard time letting go of and embracing as sort of the other piece of it. But his sheer chops as a filmmaker in this thing are astonishing. I have been thinking about the shot of little Conan holding his mom's hand when her head falls into that frame, like, for several days now. That is such an arresting image. And if you can have one of those in your movie, I'll call you a success as a director. This movie's full of moments like that.
It really is. It's and it has so many little details and little moments, and
Yes.
and like very good matte painting. It's
lost art, my friend.
Very much a lost art, and I really like. Obviously, it was a different world. They wasn't going to be able to lean on CGI, but like, that snake. It's a snake. Most of it works really well. The James Earl Jones turning into a snake head, I don't know if I would have used that shot, but they paid for it, so I guess
sure.
I'm gonna use it, right?
It was fine for me. I was watching it this time, and like I said, I hadn't seen it in a while, and so I was like, oh man, I forget. How are they gonna do that? And now, of course, you would see it. But I was fine with the cut. I thought the cut was effective.
I'm glad you mentioned the snake scene, though, because Jesus Christ, that scene should be like Exhibit A in any debate over practical versus computer-generated effects. Like, that snake is scary as shit, and it looks extremely real and very convincing.
And when he stabs through it, you see that it's difficult for him to do it.
Yes!
And nowadays, it would the hand would just shoot upward effortlessly because there would be no snake head.
Right.
And they would
ones
put a
and
snake head
zeros.
there.
Yes.
Yeah. And it would have no weight or heft, and therefore you wouldn't react to it. But now you're oh my God, and then he beheads it, and real blood slops all over the place. CGI blood, of all the sins, CGI blood is one of the worst. It's just embarrassing.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. But to that end, I also feel like it's a film where it has, we think of it with such affection now. It's been so normalized as sort of this 80s classic for a variety of reasons. I think it's easy to forget how utterly batshit insane much of this movie is. And that, for the record, is a note I took after Conan threw the demon woman he was fucking into the fire. Like, that really is that's a scene that I don't imagine we would see in a contemporary Conan movie.
Well, I think part of that is on Schwarzenegger too, because you don't see things like that in Schwarzenegger movies.
That's true.
For very long after this.
That's true.
He dipped out of the surreal.
Yes.
Right? I mean, there's the one where he's an alien or whatever, where he's, with the three-titted lady.
Yes.
I forget what that's called. But,
Total
thank you. But, for the most part, he didn't really do surreal for most of his career.
Right.
That scene, what's tremendous about that scene is that happens, and then they never mention it again.
Right.
And I'm totally okay with that.
Right.
It doesn't need to come back at the end where it's like, oh, we should go talk to the crazy witch lady who tried to kill me with sex snakes or sex demons, whatever it was. It's a little confusing.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. But you talk about crazy. So there's the snake scene, and then they go into another church later, another performance where they are basically a bunch of rich people enjoying kind of cannibal soup.
Sure.
And it's really gross looking cannibal soup. Mm-hmm. And it's not remarked upon. Nobody why they're eating it. It seems to have some kind of drug like effect, but that's not ever stated. It's just, oh, by the way, there are arms and feet floating in the soup. Yeah. That he is going to dump on all these people. And again, this is what's missing from the world right now is a Hollywood movie where they just throw in some cannibal soup.
Right.
because it's cool and
Right.
like, and it titillates you, and that's like not like Pulp is more fun than whatever the fuck is going on right now. And I just, you could probably pull up a dozen different things. He punches a camel at one point.
He does. It's a total. I'm like, are they doing a Blazing Saddles homage here? What exactly is happening? It's a great moment. I laughed. I cackled like a child at it. But I mean, I guess maybe that's what. The thing that I do feel like I love my experience with this movie. I love the fact that I got to see it in the circumstances in which I saw it for the first time. But I also know that I missed something that you guys got to experience by seeing this when you are like of the age where everything in it is the coolest fucking thing you've ever seen. Like that I do feel like I missed out on a little bit.
And like, this is like a broader thing, but like, also, this movie has so few children, and that breaks my heart, including the sequel, which is not good. I think because it's missing these things we're talking. It's, I believe, PG-13.
Mm-hmm. It may even just be PG. Like, it came out right in the cusp of that introduction of that rating.
And it doesn't work, and there really aren't a lot, like, obviously, you can point to Game of Thrones as like kind of the next visitation of like hard R, sword and sorcery, but that stuff's different, and it doesn't have this kind of electricity to it. Mm-hmm. And it's just one of those movies that you just wish, because you can see it when they make this, because like the very first Conan story that Robert E. Howard ever wrote, Conan is an old man in it, and he's a king. Like you see him briefly in like kind of the framing structure of this movie is like a story. You watch this movie and you can see another world where Schwarzenegger played Conan over and over again in this world where it's hard R, and you watch him rise from barbarian to king, and I would be very into that.
I would have watched a lot more of those than those fucking Rambo movies.
Yo, that's the truth. Yes.
Agreed.
I mean, I even like the one with the Mujahideen, but I like it. You know what I mean? I mean, like Arnold Schwarzenegger is an old Conan king. I would probably actually like that one.
Right. Every once in a while, I remember that being tossed around for a while. Not really recently, but in the last decade or so, that maybe they would try and get together with him and have him do like a King Conan movie. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it ever reached any stage of realness at all. But again, you can't trust them to make that now. It would be the 2011 film.
Right.
And that's just, again, I think you could show those two movies next to each other just to kind of chart Hollywood's fall from grace.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense to me. Yeah. And, I'm glad that you mentioned that remake, because I really do. I feel like watching something like that is kind of an object lesson in what we used to do when we made a mainstream would-be blockbuster and what we do now.
Yes.
And that this, I think is sort of unique to its moment in an interesting way, that it feels like a movie that could have only been made in that sort of late 70s, early 80s pocket where John Milius would have a script this insane. Yeah. And Zeno De Laurentiis would just hand him the check that he needed to make it, and he would go make it. And I guess, it's not that there aren't filmmakers who don't have that kind of free reign anymore. It's that none of them are insane perverts the way that guys like Milius were. And I think we're all lesser for that. I think we miss that.
No, it's why my heart breaks that like art and pulp have gotten so divorced from each other in the common consciousness of our culture, because now you can have art people, and sometimes they dip into it,
Sure.
And then you have pulpy stuff that can't rise up past a certain level of budget or creative control. And yes, we need more freaks. Tarantino might be like kind of one of the last of the true like art pulp auteurs who got real power. And a lot of his later work is fine, but like it never for me reached those like real crazy levels that his early stuff did.
Right. Agreed. Okay, well, let's take a quick break, and then we will talk about
Cannibal Soup, bro. You really are
Cannibal
a fucking
Soup.
Writer. You really are a fucking writer. That's good stuff, Cannibal Soup.
I mean, that's somebody needs to use that title for something. I mean, or a band name. I don't know. Cannibal Soup just has a good ring to it. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will talk about the movie's release and reception. All right, friends, let's talk about the release and reception of Conan the Barbarian, which opened in New York City on May 14, 1982, alongside Wrong is Right, The Return of the Soldier, and The House Where Evil Dwells, none of which I've seen. But also playing that weekend in NYC, here you go, Porky's, Diner, Quest for Fire, Chariots of Fire, The Long Good Friday, Diva, Death Trap, On Golden Pond, The Atomic Cafe, Das Boot, Richard Pryor, Live on the Sunset Strip, Some Kind of Hero, Lady Chatterley's Lover, the 32nd big week per the ad of My Dinner with Andre, and for some fucking reason, a big re-release of Andy Warhol's Frankenstein. I looked at this ad for 5 minutes trying to figure out why this movie was getting a multi-theater re-release in 82. And the best I've got is there was the 3D boom. Like there was a little mini boom of 3D again in the early 80s. So maybe they were bringing back some 3D stuff and that one is in 3D. That's the best theory I got. Okay, Mike, what were the news headlines on that day?
This is when I sound the crankiest, oldest man. It's like, look at that list. Are you kidding me?
I know.
But I really feel that way. I don't know what to do with this.
There's nothing.
This is like a needle to thread here because I have the same fear of like feeling like an old reactionary. But no, I am sorry. That we live in a shit time. That was better for art.
It was
for the commercial consumption of art.
Yeah.
That was a better time. Like, it's not even close.
No.
Like, it's not even close.
No. There's like 4 good movies out right now, and I just read you a list of like 20.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, headline. Sorry. Friday, May 14th, 1982. Britain blew up some airplanes on the Falklands Islands, but they were really sneaky about it, and no one was hurt. This was before the war actually started. Okay, now, I seriously, in almost 4 years of doing this segment, this is the slowest news day of any we've covered. There was nothing fucking happening on May 4th, 1982, or at least nothing that people were willing to talk about in public. And I kind of think we should just respect that and move on. Slow news days are great, bro. Just go to the movies.
Fair enough.
There were so many good ones.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean?
All right.
You want me to tell you about a speech Ronald Reagan made?
No.
Like, no. Just go to the movies. Jason, what did the critics say about Conan the Barbarian?
Well, Mike, in the Times, our old pal Vincent Canby called it.
Lord have mercy.
I know. It's some real Vincent Canby shit I'm about to read you. Quote, an extremely long, frequently incoherent, ineptly staged adventure fantasy set in a prehistoric past. One has the impression that it cost a lot of money, though not all of it is on the screen. One is never unaware that one is watching a lot of extras trot around Spain wearing goat hair jogging shorts and horns on their hats. End quote. He concluded, quote, though the landscapes are sometimes pretty, the images are as empty as the narrative, which, among other wrong things, begins on a fairly exciting note and then becomes progressively less suspenseful until it just sort of stops. This could be a film to be run backward, end quote.
I don't know what the opposite of a friend of the show is, but fucking Vincent Canby is the opposite of a friend of this show.
I feel like so far the biggest not friend of the show has been Rex Reed, but Canby
he's the biggest not friend of cinema.
That's true.
So definitely, he counts in that way too.
Certainly up there. Variety was similarly unimpressed, writing that, quote, the uninitiated will once again marvel at how a picture as monumentally boring and uncentered as this ever captures the fancy of anyone, end quote. And Times' Richard Schickel dismissed it as, quote, a sort of psychopathic Star Wars, stupid and stupefying, end quote.
That sounded cool until he said the stupid part.
I know, right?
A sort of psychopathic Star Wars? I would be in for that.
I'd see that. But, and here's a man who often provides us with the opportunity to say but. Good old Roger Ebert, Uncle Roger. Uncle Roger gave it 3 out of 4 stars, calling it, quote, a very nearly perfect visualization of the Conan legend of Robert E. Howard's tale of a Superman who lived beyond the mists of time when people were so pure, straightforward, and simple that a 1930s pulp magazine writer could write about them at 1 cent a word and not have to pause to puzzle out their motivations, end quote. What I think, nice. I know we don't often sort of get into the compare and contrast and the dialectics of the review excerpts that we read, but what is really striking to me, just as someone who knows his backstory, is that you read these reviews and you can tell that Roger Ebert is the one person who has read these Conan books.
Yep.
Like
he's the one guy who read comic books when he was a kid.
Exactly. That he came up reading pulp and like knew what the aim was, knew what the intention was, knew what it had to achieve, and knew that it had achieved it. And this is a tricky ground to get into as someone who works as a critic, because like you can't actually have that expectation of every critic for every film, like that they will have read all of the source material and all this sort of thing. But it certainly comes in handy sometimes. And in this, I think, is a pretty clear-cut case of that.
It is tricky as a critic, which I am not now, but I have been in my life.
Sure.
You want to thread that needle between having your own critical perspective, but also you want to ask a question like, what is this movie trying to be?
Right.
And how well does it do? And again, I would say if you look at like kind of the sword and sandal movies that come out around this era, or really almost any era, and compared to this movie, you go, no, this is it. Right. This is how you do it. This is Kroll or whatever. Like, mostly they're really bad. And this movie is, I use this phrase for another movie, which I'll reveal later, but it's what I call it's perfect like a shark. By which I mean a shark is perfect at what a shark does.
Right.
And this movie does that. This is a hard R, pulpy sword and sandal thriller. The one thing that somebody in that list called out that I will agree with is the ending is a little bit of a
Sure.
But that's, again, nobody's perfect, but like,
there we go.
This is the opposite. You're talking about worrying about sounding reactionary or something. The opposite is you look back at these people and you didn't know.
You motherfuckers did not know how good you had it. No, they didn't know how good they had it is a phrase that gets called up quite a lot when we're reading contemporaneous reviews. These fuckers did not know.
No.
They didn't know.
My and I can't justify this in mathematically, but I just use this number arbitrarily. Any movie made before 2007 that you watch now will, in some aspect, surprise and impress you.
Yeah.
Almost universally. At the very least, the cinematography will be special because it was shot on film.
They shot it on fucking film and that looks better. It just is aesthetically better. Yes, they lit it. They may have even color graded it. Holy shit.
Yeah.
How did it do in terms of box office and awards, Mike?
Conan opened first place at the box office, knocking Porky's out of that top slot. Good enough.
Thank God.
And grossed $39 million domestic and $29 million overseas for a worldwide total of $68 million, which was nothing to sneeze at in 1982. It came in at number 15 for the year, right behind First Blood and Firefox and ahead of Absence of Malice, Reds, and Time Bandits.
Again, we didn't know how good we had it.
Well,
good stuff.
Also, what else it came out ahead of, because I checked this in advance. Without adjusting for inflation, it beat the Jason Momoa 2011 movie.
Without adjusting for inflation.
Without adjusting for inflation.
That's great. That rules.
Which I think is again, not to pick on Jason Momoa, but
he's fine.
It shows that you actually can make more money by letting people be crazy freaks than you can by noting something to death and filling it with CGI bullshit.
Yeah.
If you're gonna make a Conan movie, make a Conan movie. Don't flatten it. And they do it every time. And again, I carry my bitterness like visible scars at this point. But
good. Just make room on that shoulder for the chip. It's fine. We've all got one.
But it's true. I just I've seen it from the inside many times, and it's just they want to sand off the knobs and the cracks, and those are exactly the things. Even in a Conan movie, it doesn't have to be David Lynch. In a Conan movie, it's the weirdness and the shockingness. Again, I think, the cultural footstep that this thing has left more than anything else is what is best in life, to defeat your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentations of their women. Like, that's a great line. It's a great line, and I don't know, maybe they would have, what is lamentations? People don't know. We better cut that line.
Right.
So I am glad that this is the Conan movie.
It is.
There isn't another one, really.
There we go.
As far as awards, Sandahl Bergman won the Golden Globe for Best New Star Actress, and that's pretty much it. Mm-hmm. Except, again, the genre awards came through. This time, the 10th Saturn Awards, where Bergman won Best Actress, and the film was nominated Best Fantasy Film, Best Costumes, Best Music, and Best Makeup. Yeah, Best Costumes, they had goat hair shorts. Those things are fucking cool.
Right. Horns on the hats.
Alas, as our friend Chris Nashawati wrote in his entire book on the subject, 1982 was kind of an insanely great year for sci-fi, fantasy, and horror. So it lost those awards, respectively, to The Dark Crystal, Tron, E.T., and Poltergeist. Come on, man. Tough room, dude.
Yeah, I don't know which ones of those the Dark Crystal won, but they deserve them.
Best fantasy film. It beat Conan for Best Fantasy Film. So, yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
I mean, any given day you flip a quarter and I'm going to pick one or the other. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There you have it. Now it's time for a segment we call Double It Up, where we each select one movie that we think might make an ideal double feature with today's focal film. Jordan Harper, you're our guest, which means you go first.
I mentioned earlier the idea of a movie that's perfect like a shark. And I've talked a lot about art pulp, so I'm going to take those two ideas, put them together, and say, and I know this makes no sense, Basic Instinct. Just go with me on this.
Okay.
We're just talking about the id, right?
Okay,
We're just servicing the id tonight. We're going to do it with some of the best looking images. And again, a movie that is perfect when you compare it to all its competitors. There's a different kind of erotic thriller that you could argue is better. You want to say Body Heat, whatever. Okay, I hear you.
Sure.
But those aren't pulpy and sleazy the way that Basic Instinct is. Basic Instinct is a shark. It's Jan de Bont. It is Michael Douglas and Sharon Stone. It is Joe Esterhaus. It's Paul Verhoeven. Yeah. It is a perfect movie. And I think watching these two movies back to back, I don't know which order.
Sure.
I think Conan, then Basic Instinct.
I think you're right. Just chronologically speaking.
And just...
The two modes of man, really. Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And just give in and just let it wash over you. You're going to have a really good time. And again, these are both movies that have absolute brilliant people. And you're talking, again, Oliver Stone, John Milius. You're talking about Paul Verhoeven, Jan de Bont. Just incredible work. Not to go too far afield on it, but if you have gotten the chance to see Basic Instinct on a big screen, it will blow your mind. Why is this movie gorgeous? And again, I will quibble with the critics. I don't think that Conan is gorgeous in that same way. But again, it's like these images. And again, it's just push your part of you aside that says that art can't be sleazy and can't be fun. Right. And just get lurid with it, know? Yeah. So again, I know it's a little crazy, but it felt right to me.
No, that's a great pick. Jordan, I will ask this. I didn't ask this earlier because I didn't want to potentially foul up a Double It Up pick. As you may recall, this film was culturally and financially successful enough that we really did have kind of a wave of 80s sword and sorcery movies, your Beastmasters, your Deathstalkers, et al. Were there any of those films that you really liked, that you thought sort of maybe didn't equal Conan, but were sort of deserved to be in the conversation with it?
I'll be honest with you, no. I mean, I really if somebody has an answer, I mentioned Kroll, whatever it was earlier. I wanted to like that movie so much.
Well said.
It's a different type of movie, and I don't think it's as good as this. But Flash Gordon, I know that's not Sword and Sandal, but I feel like
that's in the same sandbox. Yeah,
that would be another way to go with the double feature. That would actually be a lot of fun, I think. But no, and if you guys have one you really like, I would love to hear it. But no, none of them really stuck with me the way this one did.
So my pick, go with me. 2 nights ago, after I finished up work for the day, I partook of an edible, and for the first time put on a 4K UHD disc of what Danny Perry calls the flimsy Conan the Destroyer. Hear me out. After years of slander, in the particular mood I was in, the state of mind I was in, I'm afraid I had a really good time with Conan the Destroyer. I found its goofiness, while incongruent with the first film, to be enjoyable in its own way. I enjoy the ensemble cast. I think, say what you will, but it's a Conan movie with Grace Jones. Like, she's fucking bringing it. Wilt Chamberlain is fun to watch. Olivia Dabo, I like in everything. It is a far lesser film, a much goofier film, and is definitely hurt by whatever moron thought that it should be a PG-rated film. But late enough at night, with a strong enough gummy, you just might enjoy it. So that's my pick. Mike, what's yours?
I kind of got to do okay, there's a pulp choice. The pulp choice is, I mean, the greatest pulp sword and sandal movie's Caligula, right?
Oh.
But then there's the film school choice.
Okay.
There's the film school choice.
Uh-huh.
And my actual favorite sword and sandal movie doesn't have any sorcery in it. It's Iphigenia. 1977. Have you ever seen Iphigenia?
No.
It's so it's made by Greeks, and it's based on an ancient Greek tragedy.
Sure.
And it's, it's Agamemnon, it's all the big sort of characters. I mean, the people. And Helen is already in Troy, and if you know anything about this, there's several people in the movie who suggest that she wasn't kidnapped, which is like the high fucking drama of right? I mean, this is
the Kennedy assassination conspiracy of its time, if you will.
The idea of calling Helen a whore is a big deal. Like, this is a real problem, and the only reason it's a problem is because maybe it's
okay.
I mean, I'm not saying you cheat on your old man, you're a whore. Like, you don't got to use that word.
Sure.
But the fact that she wasn't necessarily kidnapped to get to Troy is a big deal. And so they are trying to go. They're trying to go get Helen back, but there's no wind. And so they talk to the oracles, and they do the things, and the oracle says, "We'll give you wind, but you got to kill your kid."
Okay.
Right?
All right.
So now it's Menelaus' wife who's in Troy, but it's Agamemnon, who's Menelaus' brother, who has to kill his kid to get the wind to go get Helen back.
Okay.
He doesn't tell his wife.
Okay.
He tells her that he's going to marry her. And so his wife comes, and she is like, "I'm going to dress my daughter for her wedding. Are you out of your mind?" If you don't know why we still watch Greek tragedy, and then after that, Iphigenia comes and tries to tell her father she wants to help him prepare the sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we're still talking about it. Is that shit where she's like, "Please, Dad, let me help you. What are we sacrificing?"
Right.
Oh my God, dude. Iphigenia 1977. If you don't think that you like that kind of stuff, there's no big snakes and shit in it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not a pulp thing. It is an ancient Greek tragic thing. But if you don't know why you like that kind of stuff, watch Iphigenia. And if you don't like Iphigenia, then you don't like that thing. Just go back to snakes. It's all good, bro. No judgment. But like this was this was how I found my way in to these stories in a lot of way, and to the power of this stuff.
All right. There you have it. Jordan Harper, A Violent Masterpiece is out on Tuesday. Where can people follow you on social media and read your work?
I mostly hang out on Blue Sky. Pretty easy to find. So find me there. My work is hopefully available in your local bookstore.
There you go.
And, I don't really have anything in the TV space right now or movie space that I can announce. Buy my books. Buy The Last King of California. It's my littlest book in a lot of ways, and I want more people to read it. So buy Last King of California.
There we go.
Well, when you do have something else to announce, will you come back? Because this was great.
Yeah.
Oh, thank
seriously.
you. No, this is really fun.
I'm Jason Bailey on Blue Sky and Letterboxd. Mike, where can people find you?
I'm Michael Hall on Letterboxd, where I am writing about Iphigenia and she rides shotgun.
And, of course, if you like the show and think other people might like it too, please leave us a rating and or review on your podcatcher of choice. If you would like to join our mailing list and get your weekly show notes, links to what we're talking about, where to see the movie, etc., you can do that at buttondown.email/filmfanatic. And if you'd like to make a donation to support us in the show, you can do that at ko-fi.com/funcitysounds. And finally, of course, if you're one of those freaks, one of those perverts who likes to watch videos of people recording a podcast for whatever reason, hello, hi, we're on YouTube. Our channel is called Guide for the Film Fanatic.
Our humblest thanks to our guiding light, Mr. Danny Perry, author of Guide for the Film Fanatic. And shout out to executive producer Blake Howard. You know, Bailey, we had a meeting the other day, and I was asking him what he wants us to accomplish with this podcast,
Sure.
you know, running the network and all.
Yeah.
He gave me the strangest answer.
Okay.
To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentations of their women. We're coming for you, Liam. Look out, you die-hard on a guys.
Thank you.
You're next.
Thank you again, Jordan.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Jason.
And thank you for listening. Folks, you're lucky in this life if you have even one opportunity to talk about Elvis with Sheila O'Malley. She joins us for the next Guide for the Film Fanatic to discuss one of the King's best movies, Michael Curtiz's King Creole. Don't miss it.